Hello everyone, welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer, as always, of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We're going to go over every Spotlight Cash card releasing in the month of June, and then we're going to do a deep dive into Thena, the 2-1 releasing at this point as well. This is our second video of the day, so if you're curious about Gilgamesh, check this morning's video for all about Gilgamesh. I know we're not covering the patch. I want to wait for the data mines. We're going to do 2 videos again tomorrow. Video 1 will be all about the data mines and patch, and video 2 will be our regular daily deck video. So make sure you're ready for all of this content. In addition, we have our first 5 giveaway winners. We have Walter Evans, Leggett27, Joseph NY Wayfarer, long-term sub, Zandal3166, and your dad works for Xbox. Please email snapjudgmentspodcast@gmail.com or find me on either Twitter or Discord in order to claim your season pass of Gilgamesh. So we are also giving away way more season passes. Every single video from, well, we give away Monday. So every single video from Tuesday all the way to Friday, including the 2-a-days, is going to have a giveaway. At some point in this video, I'm going to tell you what to comment on this video. And as long as you're subbed, you'll be entered to win a season pass. So make sure you hit that sub button, pay attention to the video. And at some point in this video, I'm going to ask you a question. You'll answer that in the description to the video to be entered to win the giveaway. All right, our first thing we do, though, as always, is I don't ever leave you without a new deck. I know I'm going to give you new Thena decks, but everyone's not going to open for Thena. So I wanted to give you all a deck that you could hopefully play. This is our friend Philip Rakovitz. Rakos, I'm a big boy now. I played this deck for quite a bit, and it's real good. Like, this is a very powerful deck, and it answers a lot of the meta. Your opponent goes Professor X on turn 5, you go War Machine on turn 5, you've usually won that damn game. There's so much power in this deck. It is very hard to counter with a lot of the things in the current meta. It can actually, the thing that it was actually struggling to is the Thor's deck running Shadow King. It's a little weak to Shadow King, but almost everything else it has really good gameplay into. You can find Philip Rakovitz if you're curious about this list. He's a top 1,000 player who hangs out in the Marvel Snap the Snap Judgments League Discord, which is our Discord. We're also in the Marvel Snap Zone Discord, but Rako is a mod on the Snap Judgments League Discord if you want to ask about the deck. Red Guardian here can be Mobius or Nocturne or even just Rogue. The other high series cards are required here. Blink is an extra way to cheat out Infinite Giganto She-Hulk. Hope is another way to get those cards out, and War Machine is kind of the deck. Kitty is necessary for the Hope package. Cool. All right, so this is top 1K Infinite. This also won an Infinity Conquest. Turn 1, I prefer Sunspot to Kitty. Be wary that Sunspot's going to get Red Guardian, but he can have a little bit of power before that happens. Turn 2, Angela, generally over Armor. Turn 3 is Hope. Hope is like your priority. If not, you're doing a turn 1-2 combo play. Turn 3, you can Jubilee if you have Blink in hand, or you can War Machine on Hope, and then you can just drop Infinite. Make sure you do that center or right, though, because you want to save left for when you don't have War Machine for Giganto as necessary. You can also, if you don't have either the Jubilee play or the War Machine play, just play a bunch of stuff on Hope. You'll be totally fine. Because on turn 5, with all that stuff on Hope, you can pass, grow your Sunspot, and then do the She-Hulk Infinite play on turn 6. You can also just play that Blink on Jubilee, get a nice big card out, or you can just drop Infinite if you played War Machine. You also are perfectly happy fairly often to just like Blink or Red Guardian or whatever else around the middle of the game. Then turn 6 is often Giganto left. You can also Infinite or Giganto with She-Hulk, or just pass. The other turn 5 play not focused on is sometimes you drop a War Machine on turn 5 on that Hope Summers, and that's also a really good play. This deck is stellar, really powerful. This is, it's only been 10 games, so I don't want to go crazy. I went 7-3 with this. I don't want to speak too soon, but this has felt like the best War Machine deck I've played, and the one that has the best play into the meta. So if you're sick of Professor X and Cannonball, hi FaThorNewman, you should really try this list. I think you'll really enjoy it. And if you want some gameplay from this or all the other decks in this video, check out the stream team. It is Tuesday, so the homie Prashaun will have games for these videos. He was live a couple hours ago. He might still be live now. Check him out. But tomorrow morning, there will be a video on Prashaun's YouTube about this. There's also already a video on Gregor's YouTube about yesterday's decks, tomorrow's FlashX, etc. All right, our first card is Thena. Thena is a 6/4. We're going to break down Thena again specifically and in more detail toward the end of the video, but we're going to go through the spotlight caches first. So we have Thena, 2-1 after each turn, plus 3 power if you played exactly 2 cards. There's times when that's going to be really easy, and there's times when that's going to be really complicated. However, it should happen at least twice in the game that you play exactly 2 cards, which makes her a 2/7, which is bigger than Maximus. It's bigger than Maximus without the incredibly bad Maximus downside. It works with Ravonna. This card seems like it's probably going to be pretty freaking good. So what does Thena come with? Thena comes with MODOK and Grandmaster, and again, we're going to do a whole breakdown of these, but MODOK is the single most required high series card for discard decks, and Grandmaster exists. Grandmaster, even with his buff, has not really found a home. We'll see if more people getting their hands on the card with this Spotlight Cache changes that. But right now, we have MODOK and Grandmaster with Thena. If you already have MODOK, that complicates getting Thena, right? So Thena seems really great, but if you already have MODOK, I don't think you really need Grandmaster, even though he's a Series 5 card. Next up, we have Cersei. Cersei releases on 6/11, i.e. next Tuesday. Everything is Series 5, so I'm not going to list Series 5 6,000 tokens for everything. But 5/7, on reveal, transform your other cards here into random cards that cost 1 more if able. That seems like it's really interesting, especially in a Nihilist package decks. It's a way to basically say, when your opponent tries to fill that void location, you turn that into a random 4. That's almost always a good thing for you. Turning that void into a random 5, because it'll cost 1 more, right? Even if you have a couple little things like a hood there or whatever else, you're perfectly happy with this exchange. This seems like it's a way to make a lot of power and seems like a pretty good card. It is dangerous for 2s and 3s in particular because Carnage exists in the 2s and several 3s that can cause you trouble exist. If you're hitting a 2-cost card, you're turning that 2-cost card into potentially, let's go through the options that are dangerous. Killmonger, Cosmo, which I'd assume she finishes her ability and doesn't just immediately stop when Cosmo reveals, but who knows yet. Deathlock, Venom, etc. So, like, there's a bunch, like, there's probably some more that I'm not even thinking of. Jean Grey when you don't want Jean Grey. So on and so forth. Like, Cersei has the potential to hit a really dangerous 2. There aren't really terrible 4s to hit. There are quite a few 6s if you're hitting a 5, though, that you're not super thrilled by. So, like, this is a lot of power. This is probably very good, but we're going to learn pretty quickly what we want to do in this deck outside of a Nihilist package. Because this is definitely a Nihilist package, and everyone was like, they're going to nerf Professor X, they're going to nerf Professor X. If they do, a Nihilist package is the best deck in the game. So, like, get immediately prepared. Get your Nihilists ready, especially once Cersei comes out. Cersei comes with Meek and Phoenix Force. Those are both Series 4 cards. Meek is an okay discard card. The best current discard does not run him. It used to. But Meek is just a nice discard card, while Phoenix Force is an archetype all her own, but she is a Series 4 card. That they stuck Cersei with 2 Series 4 cards suggests to me that this card is pretty freaking good. Honestly. I think that they tend to stick really powerful cards with a bunch of Series 4 cards. I know Safety Blade, who's really great at card evaluation, likes Cersei best, while Dopti, those are my 2 go-tos. I think they're the 2 best at card evaluation, really likes Thena, so it suggests that the first 2 weeks are where you want your attention to be. Makari is the 6/18 card, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. 3/3 after your turn, run from your hand to a random location if possible. That's great, usually if it happens on 3, but there's definitely locations you don't want that to happen. She can fill a location when you're not ready. She doesn't work great with like a Hope Summers or an Angela style card in the deck. A free 3 power is pretty good, but I think what Angel has sort of taught us and what M'Baku has sort of taught us is that we don't really want this. It can be good, right? But, like, let's say you pull it on turn 6. It runs into a location, fills that location. That's where you wanted a Surfer, right? Or on turn 5, it runs to a location. That's where you were planning on surfering. Now you're screwed. Or you pull it on turn 6 and you Surfer and then it runs out. Like, there's a lot of real downside here. I think this is almost guaranteed to be the worst card of the month. I really don't like this. This is my least favorite card they've released since Hercules. If this is good, I will be shocked. I hope I'm wrong because that is gorgeous art. But I'm not hopeful for Makari. We have Makari coming with 2 of the best cards of the month. I don't think that's an accident. I think they're trying to make this unattractive Makari pack seem really good. So they're putting it with X23, who is an absolute Destroy staple. You need this card in order to play Destroy. Your Deadpool Destroy decks just will not work unless you have Deadpool and X23. And we also have Gladiator, who's one of who is series dropping. And if you want a full series drop guide, can't believe I didn't say this, but this morning's video, I also went through every card series dropping and gave really thorough advice for that. So make sure you check that out as well. But Gladiator is a 3/8. It's a card that goes in an absolute ton of decks. It's required for mill. It's really good. These are two great cards that you can pull, but they're saying if you want to pull them, you're risking the worst card of the month, which, okay, fair. All right, next up we have Phastos. Phastos is super, super controversial. Most people like him, but the people who hate him think he's going to be real bad. He's amazing on 3. He's probably amazing with Magic, but he can be really rough if you're playing him even as late as turn 4 and you're only getting 2 buffs. He's a 3/3. On reveal, give each card in your deck -1 cost or +2 power. It's completely random which you get, but fundamentally, he says in the Surfer deck, he says every card is either hit by Sarah or already hit by Surfer when it comes out. That seems pretty good. Your cards like Brood, like you're perfectly happy at a Brood for 2, right? But you're also happy with a Brood that starts with 4 power. Same thing for Sebastian Shaw. Same thing for Surfer himself, Killmonger. Also worth noting, he doesn't say minimum 0. So there's at least potentially a home in bounce decks here, where like if you can play him and make a bunch of your bounce stuff cost 0, your Hitmonkey, who's been sort of getting edged out a little bit by Sage, gets an awful lot better. I think that there's something to like here. I think that this card is worth playing. Look, if you play the cards you get after him, right, and he just gets 3 + 2 power, he's a 3/5/7/9. And if he lets you play extra cards because he's negative cost, that's obviously also a benefit. I don't know. In a deck where you want to play most of your cards, I think that he's going to be really, really good. So I'm in on Phastos. I know a lot of people aren't, but I think he's at least going to go in Surfer decks where you can play him and Absorbing Man him and just sort of go off, which is like, I'm excited for. That might also be the home for Grandmaster. This is also one hell of a week because Corvus Glaive is a must-have card. It is in every Hella deck and most of the major discard decks. So I think Corvus Glaive is a must-have card and one worth getting. Also, I want that Corvus variant very, very badly. It's my favorite, one of my favorite variants in the game. And then we have Spider-Ham, who's like kind of useless right now. He's fine, I guess. But like, I think Iceman is generally speaking better because Iceman doesn't kill you if your opponent's playing Mobius, and there is a lot of Mobius in the meta. So that said, I think that Phastos and Corvus Glaive are really, really great to add. But we're not done. We go into July with Arishem, who would be a big bad under the old system. This is a 7/7 Series 5, 6,000 tokens. What does the Celestial do at the start of the game? +1 max energy, shuffle 12 random cards in your deck. Everyone's going to want this card. This is super interesting, super changes the game. Is it good? Who the hell knows? Shuffling 12 random cards in your deck means you may never, ever see your real cards. You might only ever draw the bullshit random cards, which would suck. But he's obviously great with Quinjet. He's probably really great with Collector. Cards like Coulson and all those cards that basically generate cards that you know you can play. Your, what's his name? Nick Fury's Loki is perfectly happy to just chuck these cards and then get a whole new hand. You can play Wave. Cam Best keeps saying you can play Wave on turn 3 and only you get to benefit, so you can like Wave into Magneto. I think that there's something here. I think that this is at least one of the most fun cards they've printed in ages, and I'm really excited for it. And they know people are going to want it because they put 2 of the worst cards. I think this might be the 2 worst cards they released this year, or at least damn close. Because Black Swan is the season pass card, the only season pass card since last August, since Dakin, that didn't immediately find a meta home, and Hercules, who badly needs a redesign. So, like, they know how good Arishem is. They're putting it with 2 completely undesirable cards because they know everyone's going to want it. Is it going to be great? It's really hard to say. But I decided to rank every freaking card in Spotlight caches. So, 625 has Corvus Glaive. I think Corvus Glaive is the single most desirable card here. Corvus Glaive is in a meta Hella deck. At least as of today, that Hella deck is meta. The discard decks are really underrated. You should check Monday's video if you want a version of discard that runs Corvus. That's great. I think that he is, again, just the single best card here, while X23 is the second best card. I think Destroy is worse than Hella right now, but X23 is probably a slightly better card in like a vacuum. So I've got Corvus over X23. I personally love Phastos. I think Surfer is great. I love Bounce, so Phastos is next for me. I cannot put Phastos above X23 or Corvus, which are proven meta-shaping cards, but I could see any of the next 4 cards being first. So that means that they're sort of a wash. I think Tier 1 is Corvus and X23. Tier 2 is Phastos, Cersei, Thena, Arishem. I think that those are all significantly worse than the first 2, right? However, Fastos being in a tier with Corvus means that that's right there for me, while X23 comes with the only card not in this tier, Makari, which means if you're going to open 1 week, I would suggest, as long as you like Surfer or Bounce or Hella, it be, my cat is meowing if you can hear him, I would suggest it be Corvus or the Corvus Fastos week. I think as if you don't have Corvus, that's an easy pull week. X23 is hard to suggest you pull for because I think Makari is going to be terrible. Cersei, Thena, Arisham are all meh. Gladiator is the other card that comes with X23 and Makari, which is, again, obnoxious. However, MODOK, if you don't have MODOK, I think Thena is pretty much guaranteed to be really useful, assuming you're willing to play Ravonna-style decks. If you want to play any discard, you need MODOK. Next up, we have Phoenix Force, which is its own deck. I don't know. I don't think Phoenix Force decks are very good right now. So I have Phoenix Force just a little bit lower. I think Phoenix Force has taken a fairly severe hit in the meta. So I have Phoenix Force a bit lower than I would usually. And since Phoenix Force is lower, that's going to push that week down, where Phoenix Force is with another Series 4 card. What is that other shit? Meek, which are both meh cards. So those come with Cersei. So like, if you need them, I guess Cersei is fine to open for. If not, whatever. Then we have Grandmaster and Black Swan, which are not desirable cards in any way, shape, or form right now. Grandmaster is at least Series 5, though, and as is Black Swan. Black Swan was a Season Pass. If you're playing Marvel Snap and not treating it like a subscription service where you buy the Season Pass every month, I think you are doing yourself a severe disservice. I know it's a digital game where you don't own it, but considering how much you probably play the game, it's really, really great value. Then we have Meek, Makari, Spider-Ham, Hercules. Those are the, I don't think you really want them tier. Meek is great, but not going to be in any of the discard decks we look at even today. I think there's very low chance of Makari being good. Spider-Ham is a reasonably irrelevant card in the meta, and Hercules is terrible. Hercules is like the worst card here. So that means I think that, again, feel free to open for any of Fastos, Cersei, Thena, or Arisham. Save your caches, target for them. But if you need Corvus, that should shape what you're doing. So 6-4, Thena, MODOK, and Grandmaster. Thena seems good enough if you need MODOK that I would just feel safe opening. We're going to, again, do a deep dive into this shortly. For 6-11, if Professor X is gone, whether it be this week or next week, we will know soon, hopefully. Cersei is going to be great for Annie decks. If not, I feel like I would skip this if I had Phoenix Force and Meek. Makari, X23, Gladiator. If you need X23 and Gladiator, it's probably worth opening. But if you only need one, I think I'd also skip this week because, again, I don't think you're going to find much use for Makari. I have Makari sitting at the back of your collection. It's going to be a feel about. Excuse me. Whoop. My wife is here and she's now laughing at my hiccup. Fastos, Corvus, and Ham. If you need Glaive, this is the easiest week to open. I strongly urge you to do so. And Arisham, Black Swan, Hercules. Arisham could be completely terrible or completely amazing. If Arisham isn't amazing, this is literally the worst week of Spotlights ever. But Arisham's so cool that I think everyone's going to want to open this week anyway. So that's my advice. Hopefully you can use this as your guide for what to do with Spotlight caches. Again, I think if you need Corvus, 625 is the week to target. All right, we're finally on to Thena. We're going to give our full Thena review now. So after each turn plus 3 power, if you played exactly 2 cards, and this is potentially freaking humongous. If on 2 with Wasp, it's and triggered every turn, it's a 216. That seems unlikely. I think most games it's going to be a 2-7 to 2-10, but like even a 2-4 is not terrible, right? If you're perfectly happy to play a 2-4 most games, that's still decent stats. A 2-7 is great stats, and a 2-10 is just like through the roof. Oh my goodness. So this is a new trigger. Anytime they release a new trigger, we never really know how it's going to work until we play it. It might be easy to get exactly 2 cards out every turn once we know the right deck, and it might be really challenging. However, cards like Namora and Ms. Marvel, which were also new triggers, ended up being great. Most of the new triggers have worked just fine, which suggests to me that Thena is also going to be very, very good. However, it still may take a bit to find the right home. Figuring out the exact cost curve, how to exactly play this card. This is going to be a fairly high skill cap card, I think, for most people. Some people are going to trigger it too much to their detriment. Some people are going to trigger it not enough to their detriment. This is going to be very weak to both Shadow King and especially Red Guardian. Red Guardian hitting this makes it utterly useless. Now you've just got a 2/-1 sitting there, sadly. It is going to work with Ravonna, so you can drop like Athena and Angela on turn 3, which is just really good. That's going to immediately trigger Thena, and you can immediately trigger Angela, which is going to be 2 power and then another 3 power, so that's plus 5 power. Just that turn, which seems decent, that you can continue to trigger throughout. You could also, yeah, you get the idea. This is likely great with Hope Kitty shenanigans, but you have to build for that because sometimes Hope gives you so much energy you want to play 8 cards a turn. If you do that, then you just sort of ignore Thena. She's just not going to be great those. Odds are, this seems like it's too much power to be bad. This card is almost certain to be good. The first deck we're going to look at like 10 decks as we always do, is Docty's. Docty is the king of new card content since the retirement of the great Drewberry. So Docty is awesome. This is an Ika Hawk list. This is Ika's list, except it throws Thena in because you fairly often play 2 cards a turn with this list. You don't always at the end of the game, but at the end of the game, even unless you're dooming, you're fairly often playing like the Darkhawk or the Blink plus the Kitty, which means that's 2 cards. That's a trigger. That's 2/4 right there, right? If you go Hope into Nocturne Kitty, which is another play you make fairly often, there's another 3 power. You get the idea at this point, right? Then you go Leech and Kitty, so on. So there's a lot of ways to get power here. Is Thena better than just running Elsa here? Maybe. But either way, this is still potentially a lot of power. It might even be better than Angela in this deck, which is great because Angela's insanely good in this deck. So I think that this is a real list, a real home that I am going to definitely try out because I love me some Darkhawk. Next up, we have Silky Move 69. I shared this deck ages ago. I played it a bunch on my way to Infinite, and then I played it a bunch in Infinite, maintaining a mid to high 60% win rate the whole time. This is almost certainly like the perfect home. On turn 4, especially if you don't have Hope, a lot of what you do is you drop 2 2s. Well, Thena loves that. On turn 3, you're probably not triggering, you're going to drop Hope or Elsa. But if you do drop Hope or Elsa and then you have the other one, you go Elsa, Hope, or Nocturne with a 1 on turn 4. You just triggered Thena. On turn 5, if you got that Hope going, you can go with Vision and a 1, right? Like there's lots of opportunities to trigger Thena. She should be absolutely huge. This deck is already really a force in the meta. It's really hard for all the Professor X Cannonball stuff to deal with this deck because it stays middling big all over the place. You have a bunch of like 6-7 power cards, and it's really good. Again, try it out. You hear my cat calling everybody? He's very talky. All right, next up we have Slayer Blade with Thena. Slayer Blade is Safety Blade's deck. It has been all over the meta. You've probably seen this list. Thena fits wonderfully. On turn 5, you play Professor X and Thena. You now have a 4-power Professor X. Then turn 5, the next turn, you play Cannonball and Havoc, or you already have these cards out. Congratulations, you have now, with Ravonna obviously, you have now basically broken the code. You end the game by going Sage and Wolfsbane sometimes. Guess what? There's another +4 power. This deck seems like it's absolutely perfect for it. This is straight up where I am starting my Thena exploration, unless I'm forgetting a deck that I featured because I built these yesterday. All right, our friend Obelisk made a zoo-like Thena, which is basically saying, all right, I can play too many cards, but I can also end up playing 2 cards. You want to play slightly off curve with this, right? You want to play Shan on 4, Khazar on 5, so on and so forth. If you do that, you can make yourself a huge Thena. You can always beast back cards and still go off at the end of the game, leaving Thena the power she is, or Sarah at the end of the game, leaving Thena at the power she is and being perfectly fine. I'm not sure if this works amazingly, but I'm at least interested to give it a try. Thena seems to fit very well in Junk. Junk loves playing 2 cards. You'll go like, this doesn't have enough 1-drops. I really wanted to keep Titania in the list, but I couldn't figure out how. But because you have 7 turns, that's extra turns to trigger Thena. You go like White Widow and Jeff, and all of a sudden you've triggered Thena. Ravonna lets you do Goblin and Jeff or something like that, and then you should be good to go. Next up, we have Lady Blade. This is the Werewolf by Night version of Loki that Safety has been playing into the top 10 of this past season. And this Thena is just sort of an extra Angela here. Angela's great in this list. Why not have 2? That's the entire purpose here. You very often just play 2 cards a turn in this list. I know it feels like you play more, and eventually you do, but early on you don't necessarily. And Loki seems like it's really good with Thena because you often just have an extra energy to play extra cards. Here's another version of Blink Thena. This is a more standard list than the Ika list. This one has a fairly high win rate. It's basically saying if I play a bunch of move cards and then a bunch of big stuff in Blink, I should be fine. This is, again, using Thena for the Hope thing. Basically, she's just a second Angela for decks that want it. She even looks a little bit like Angela. Tanjo has a top 3 Loki from last season that I think Thena fits in, because this is Noki, where I think Noki just wanted an extra card. Noki takes advantage of Angela and Elsa in a huge way, and having an extra card, like this deck already plays basically 2 cards every turn. I cut Snowguard for this. Snowguard is great, but like I already have Nocturne, so I'm perfectly fine just dropping Thena in here and seeing if I can use that to basically make myself an extra giant card for on the cheap that my opponent has to find a way to deal with. All right, does Thena look good? So it's hard to imagine her being bad, but she's going to be very, very easy to misplay. It is, however, a new style of ability. Excuse me. It's not going to take long for us to figure out how good this is. The best players are going to be testing this. Anything that scales up this high is something that people are going to test and really enjoy. However, we're still going to wait and see until Friday, because this is a new trigger, unless something about the other 2 cards says we must open. So let's talk about the first of those other 2 cards. It is MODOK. Former Season Pass card, Series 4, 3,000 tokens. On reveal, discard your hand. Ooh, this is a discard staple. If you want to play classic discard, Apocalypse style discard, Dracula style discard, you need this card. Period. Straight up. Let's take a look at some decks. The first is the BBAK discard. BBAK, when I checked earlier today, is like rank number 5 now, flying up the ranks, playing largely discard. This list is great. It basically uses all the 3 discards at different times to sort of mess with the opponent. It's got the Helicarrier Collector Morbius thing going for tons of power, swarm, etc. Once you learn how to play this list is really, really, really easy cubes, and it is super worth checking out. I covered this deck if you want to learn how to play it in Monday's video. You cannot play this deck without MODOK. The other card you really need is Proxima. You'll be okay without Corvus for the time being, though you do want it for largely playing MODOK with a 2 at the end or playing the Helicarrier cards. This is a more standard discard Dracula. This one runs Meek. It's basically saying if I don't run Swarm, I can't screw up my Dracula Apocalypse thing. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine list. Meek is basically replacing your extra Swarm power. This one's pretty good. It's a little harder to use, and I think it puts out a little less power, but it is both powerful and effective and worth playing. Finally, the only other place that you play MODOK is in Hela decks. So this deck wants to go Invisible Woman. You could also use Supergiant for this, then MODOK behind that, and then Hela behind that. Discard your hand, brings it all back, super great. You have Magic and Crystal to make sure that this happens. It's very effective, it's very powerful. Safety made the first of these a million years ago, and it became a meta thing for a while, but cards like Cannonball just sort of wreck it in the face. If you see the Invisible Woman and you know they're not playing anything and they've discarded a card here or there, or they play Crystal, you can just Cannonball off that Invisible Woman on 5, and then like the MODOK reveals and they're screwed, right? All right. Our second card is Grandmaster, 2/2. On reveal, move one of your on reveal cards here to the middle location. Its ability happens again. Card hasn't been meta. I'm going to open for the Spotlight variant because I don't have a variant for this. But this card has not yet been meta. It's hopeful thinking that someone comes up with something for this while it's actually like here now, but I don't expect this to be good. It's too limiting and too easy to counter once it is good. It is in this Benjamin Roller Surfer list that I really like, that I played a bunch in High Infinite. High Infinite being about top 500, which is where I'm finishing this season. Grandmaster is the worst card on this list, right? Like, it's fine. It's good in the list. It's really good with Polaris. It's really good to retrigger, obviously, Surfer, Ironheart, Sage, but it's the worst card on the list. It's really hard to make sure the one on reveal you want is in the right spot with Grandmaster. If there's multiple on reveals, I lost a lot of tokens. I mean, look, I had a really high win rate with the deck, but I lost a lot of, whatever they're called, a lot of cubes, tokens. I lost a lot of cubes basically being like, all right, so when I play this, if I hit Surfer or Ironheart, I win. Oh, it hit Sage, I lose. Stuff like that happens a lot. Still, very cool list, very powerful. Grandmaster is very fun in it. Next up, we have Ika's Counterpunch. I think there's a better version of this list, and guess what? The better version doesn't run Grandmaster, but this is a list basically built around Supergiant. So Supergiant lets you drop like Maximus and Master Mold without suffering the negative ability, or it lets you drop Ronin and then follow up with Maximus and Master Mold without your opponent knowing you're going to do that, which can win plenty of games of Marvel Snap, right? It's basically the gist here, nothing super fancy. I mean, Grandmaster basically like, if you go Absorbing Man behind Supergiant, right? You can also go, whatchamacallit, behind Supergiant. Grandmaster behind Supergiant. And then if you play your like Doom there or your Maximus there or Mastermal there or whatever, it pushes it out, and then you get the extra power on Ronin, which is nice. It's just kind of janky, right? Next up, we have Mill. This is actually cool, and I've never played it, but like I've never played this version. But basically, Grandmaster is a cheap way to get your extra Mill going. It works great with Mordo, saying the next 2 draws of yours suck, and I can still play my Yondu or Ham. It works great with Cable, steal an extra of their cards. It's workable with Zemo, not as good with Zemo, but workable with Zemo, workable with Gladiator. Perfectly fine with all these cards as a way to mill out your opponent. I think this is likely to be the best home for Grandmaster. I plan to test this version out at least a little bit once I'm in Infinite. So it'll in a few days, by Friday-ish, I should be testing this version out. This is the Grandmaster I think is most interesting and most likely to be a thing. Next up, we have Destroy. This has been the most successful traditionally. This finished in the top 4 in a tournament, a version of Destroy like this. Basically, sometimes you just need an extra Destroy trigger, and this hitting Carnage, Venom, or Killmonger again can be absolutely humongous for you. You have very few on reveals, so you're perfectly happy hitting any of the ones you do again, and in a pinch, you can always double Shang-Chi. So there's a lot to like here. I think that this is probably the safest home. This is the highest upside, this is the safest. But this last list that Den made, it's a Blink version, has a really secretly high win rate. It's like a 60-something% win rate, and I've never even heard of or seen anyone play this deck. Den theory crafted this before Blink came out, and then I never saw this list. But someone played this enough to be successful with it, so this is another one I plan to try in Infinite because I think it's fairly interesting. I believe if you Blink Grandmaster, it's going to bring back another card, like a 3, which should be either Electro or Venom. Right, and that seems like it's probably pretty solid to eat things, get things bigger, so on and so forth. And if it doesn't hit that Venom, it's going to hit Nimrod or Zola or Null or Destroyer, all of which you're perfectly happy to hit. And this is cool. There's stuff to like here with this version of it. You can always, as always, get like X-23, Wolverine, Venom them, and then just get a second Venom with Grandmaster, which can easily set up your Zola nonsense. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, should you open this week? So Grandmaster has never found a home which he's required. I will report back. I'm going to test him personally this week to try and check. MODOK is a must-have for Classic Discard, but most probably have him. He's a card that is well over a year old, so I feel like most players already own MODOK. If you don't have MODOK, feel free to open to get Thena and MODOK, then you can play Classic Discard finally, if that's a thing you want to do. If you do have MODOK, we're going to have to wait to see how good Thena is. A quick reminder about Thursday, Friday, Monday's video. In Thursday's video, I ask a bunch of top players, people that sit at the top of the Infinite leaderboard, what they think about the new cards. You're going to get a bunch of players like Lambie and Sizer and Avazord and so on's opinions about both Thena and Gilgamesh in Thursday's video as a way to be like, okay, we've had a couple days, what do you think of these? I synthesize that information for Friday when weekend missions start, when Thena will be in weekend missions, and give you an early recommendation. And then by the end of weekend missions, because everyone has to play Thena all weekend, I give you a last chance review for the card for Monday sometime during the day. So as always, unless you are like dying to play MODOK decks, because we know how good that is, wait until Friday in case Thena happens to be a dud. Cool? You'll be happier to do so. I know you have FOMO, but those 2 or 3 days are not going to hurt you. Please wait the couple days. All right, questions of the day, then we gonna be out of here. Blink Twice asked about Marvel Snap card rotation. I think Marvel Snap has too few cards, not too many. I think Marvel Snap would be a better game if we had fundamentally double the amount of cards we do. The game is too small right now, and it gets samey, and it really hurts the play experience. It's part of why people want a new mode. It's part of why people get so frustrated with the game. How many times do you see a Nihilus if you're playing at a reasonably high level, And we need destroy matchups you had so on and so forth. We need like double or to triple the archetypes so that we can cycle through them more. I think we need more cards. I think card rotation eventually happens. And we end up rotating like a bunch of Series 3 cards and then moving like Series 5 and 4 into Series 3. Player 1 wants to know what I'm most looking forward to this new season. Card-wise, I'm really excited for Fastos. But the thing I'm most excited for is there's a big Marvel Snap announcement at the IGN showcase this coming weekend. I'm very curious what that's going to be. There's also Twitch drops coming in a couple weeks that give us for freaking free the Pride Angela and who is it with Angela? America, I believe. I don't remember who the second one is, but it's definitely Angela. Sarah, Angela and Sarah, which I want really badly. If you are an early Series 3 player and you can get that Sarah, that is a game changer for you, a huge game changer for you, and you should 1,000% do it. But even if not, those are great variants that I was prepared to spend money for, and they're giving them to me for free, so thanks. Rock Hagen wants to know how hard it would be to get into Snap after a 2 or 3 month hiatus. To get back into Snap, I suppose the word I'm missing is. Nearly impossible. They need a catch-up mechanic desperately. They know, we've told them, we're just waiting for like an actual one to happen, but there needs to be a catch-up mechanic. They need to like sell decks or give us ways to get like new cards if you take a little break without waiting like 6 months or spending an absolute insane amount of money. So yeah, don't take a hiatus. I think if you're sick of the game, just play Proving Grounds every day, do some dailies, chill out, and I think you will feel better when you want to come back. Assuming that you still like the game enough to know that you might want to come back at some time. Some people just don't care. Like my friend Chris Lavin fell way behind and just doesn't care. He got whatever he needed, he spent a little money, got whatever he needed when he came back, and is just fine missing some other stuff. If that's you, that's fine. But if you are like someone who has severe FOMO, it's going to be a problem. Horstronaut, excuse me, I lost my ability to speak for a second, asks what non-Snap content creators inspire me. So, Prashaun also wants non-gaming ones, so I'll start with the non-gaming one. That is PhilosophyTube. That is Abigail Thorne. She does little like almost one-act plays that sort of explain philosophy. They teach a philosophical concept using real-world concepts. It's brilliant. I've taught it in the past. It's my single favorite YouTube channel. I don't know if I'm still a Patreon for it, but I was a Patreon for the channel for years. Abigail is brilliant, absolutely inspirational and brilliant, and I cannot recommend it more. My favorite type of game outside of, like my favorite type of video game that's not a card game is JRPGs. David Vink is my favorite JRPG YouTuber. He does a lot of news, he does a lot of top 10 lists, he does a lot of game reviews. I just think he's really charming and I greatly enjoy his content. And my single favorite content creator is Jorbs. You've probably heard me mention Jorbs before. Jorbs plays largely Slay the Spire, but does a lot of variety. I admire the way Jorbs thinks a great deal. And when I watch Jorbs, I feel like I come out of it smarter, thinking more strategically just in general in life. A thing I used to do in Marvel Snap, if I was like struggling a little bit, is I'd watch like a Jorbs video and then go play Snap, and I would just immediately be better as my mind would mimic like his way superior thought patterns. Very cool. Also, really, really good person. Responsible for my favorite quote. All right, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with honor and thanks. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon, even at the $1 tier, we'd greatly appreciate it at patreon.com/snapjudgments. We'd like to say thank you to Abigail Gieslin. Hey, Abigail. Mandatory Burnout. Hey, Cables. David G. Wingfield. Direwolf. Always Kind LAB. FaThorNewman, who needs to play the War Machine deck, please. Good Dog Gamer. Hey, Good Dog. This is the Way. All the way from Scotland. Inc. J. Neverett. J.D. McDonaldino. Caretix Lee, King of Questions. Koirei, all the way from Japan. The Great Pyrophoros. Goat Seeker. Hey, Goat Seeker. How you doing? Denman Falcon, you can check out on YouTube with great split shorts. Fat Nick, our newest sub. Thank you, Fat Nick. Doku. Ginger Prime, our second newest sub. Hey, Ginger Prime. Philip Rakovich, whose deck we saw earlier this video. Haplo. Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone. The OG Rob Silverman. Not the Jizza, but the notorious Pizza. X-Force V and Skippy G, our rhyming friends. Snap Judgments League 1 champion, Tommy Nyquist. The King of Brews. Black Dahlia. The Great Kazoo. Jessica Gamble. Ryan Wood, hey Ryan. Kev C. Hoda, we're going infinite 2 in a row, Kev. The Great Lunacris. My former student, Louis Antonis. Mod Supreme Models. Darth Tater. Remus Etala. Brian Kaufman. Justin H. Martin. The Fuzzy Dunlop. Spectrumix. Hoot. Matt H. DJ Mikey Hijinks. No Frickin' Flex. Hilaris. Hey Craig Sterry. Pretty Frickin' Chill. Seamus, who's like 5 days in a row. I'm going to have to stop this joke soon. Two Ties, whose deck got me to Infinite last season. We'll see what gets me to Infinite this season. The Pirate King himself, Tuccrr, our Twitch partner friend. The Homie Min. Much love, Min. And of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for I forgot to tell you what to comment in this video. Comment for me which card you're most excited for this season. I'm actually even going to pull that back up for you. See, this is my closing time slide. We're going to go all the way back. Are you most excited for? Look at how many decks I shared today. Jesus. All right. Are you most excited for Arishem? Are you most excited for Fastos? Are you most excited for Makari? Are you most excited for Cersei? And are you most excited for Thena? Pick one of these cards, not counting Gilgamesh. Pick one of the cards in this video. Which are you most excited for? Why? That's how you enter to win the season pass. I am most excited for Fastos, who comes with this amazing Corvus Glaive. Hopefully, you have some interesting takes. Let's change my mind if you don't agree. Peace.